This here is the 3L puzzle. The premise is pretty simple. You've got to fit 3 of these wooden L-shaped pieces into the frame here, and it's not actually particularly tricky. There's 2 challenges to this one, so there is a harder challenge on the other side, but the basic solution looks a little bit like that. So pretty easy. Well, this one here is the 11 L's puzzle. So this one has 11 identically shaped pieces this time. They're all here. So I'm a bit dubious about them being L-shaped, but we'll just let that slide. We've got to try and fit them all into the frame here. It says it's a very tough challenge. I'm up for it. So come and join me and we'll see if we can solve it today. So I've got a little bit of a feeling this one might be quite tricky. So I've got myself a coffee to prepare for this one, and we're going to get straight into it. So I think there's 2 options basically that's going to happen here. One is we're just going to have to find the assembly where it's all straight edged. And the second one, which I think is going to be more likely, is that the pieces are going to have to be angled, or at least some of the pieces are going to have to be angled. So let's take a look. Seems pretty nicely made. I think these are all hardwood pieces. And I guess my first kind of thing would be to try and line all these up so that we're using as much of the empty space as possible. We could even go for like something like this to start with. That's not really going to work. We're leaving too much dead space here. One issue with these is that it doesn't really matter how we're going to arrange them. If we put 2 pieces like this, so basically if we have a piece down in this corner, to use this empty space here, we can't really do that. And if we do assemble them together, they fit together to take up that space, then we're losing this kind of corner here. So I guess we could actually just have a look and see, to start with, how much empty space there is, and then how much the pieces would take up, and therefore how much empty space we're going to need to work with. So it's kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 long, and I'm going to guess it's maybe going to be the same coming down the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's an 8 by 8 square, if we're talking about it like that. These ones, look, they take up 5 of those square shapes. So basically we've got 55 squares of space that are going to be taken up with the pieces, and 64 available on the board. So we're going to end up with 9 empty spaces. So that's kind of useful, I guess, to know to start with, although if we're going to angle the pieces, it's kind of irrelevant, but there we go. We can't really have more than, like, if we're having 4 down a side here to start with, we could reduce that to 3 there. Then really we're going to need to be able to utilizing as much of this space as possible and trying to fit these pieces in. It's going to actually really be pretty tricky to do this with the pieces straight, because it doesn't really matter how we do this, it's going to end up... Ooh. Let's see, can we fit a piece in there? I don't know if I can. Kind of handy that all the pieces are the same size, because then you just end up only having one option. You don't need to try different pieces in different places, but this looks like already it's going to be more complicated than just fitting them in a straight alignment. So this is looking kind of good. We've got 5 empty spaces so far. That's not going to leave a good gap there, but we could try that. So this is actually not looking too bad as an attempt. So, okay, now it's, so we've got 10 in. This final 11th piece just won't fit. I wonder if it's possible just to rearrange this just very slightly to get this solved. So, I mean, it's looking pretty close. We've got this just a little 1 square here overlapping the edge of it. So I'm not sure, maybe it is just a case of finding the correct alignment with all 11 pieces fitting in the square. Because this does seem quite close. Oh. Or it's just one of those puzzles where you can get frustratingly close a lot of the time and it's just not going to work out, and you think you're on the right track, but really you're not. Because this is really, really close. I'm just wondering if it's just a couple of pieces. Yeah, I mean, we just need to make space for this last piece here. So what can we do? Something like this. This. Yeah, again, very close, not quite there. Just gonna try angling the pieces and see where we get to. Right, let's try something like this. And where else could this go? Here, like this. This feels quite good. This feels very good, because look at these edges, they're really nice, even spaced. Got a bit of dead space here. Okay, This corner's a bit of an issue. That kind of works. So I quite like this as an idea. It looks like this is probably going to be how they fit in. And I think just after doing a few packing puzzles like this, you get an idea that things aren't probably going to be as you're going to expect them to be if you hadn't done these before. So angles always seems to be the right solution for packing puzzles. I'm not 100% sure this is actually going to be the right answer. So let's see how we go on. I have that one in there, but it kind of messes up the pattern a little bit here. And again, this one feels like it's almost correct, but it's just not got enough space again. So it is pretty tricky. Because if we could get this piece in here, then it feels like it would all fit together quite nicely, but we just can't, there's just not enough space like that. So a really clever puzzle. So I'm going off my angled pieces idea here. I feel like I was closer with the pieces all just sitting straight in a square than I've got doing this angled method. And because all the pieces are the same, there's only so many interactions they can have with each other. So it's not like you've got infinite possibilities with 11 differently shaped pieces. We've only got the same shapes here to work with. So let's try and just fit these in square so there's no, or as little empty space at the top as possible. So I think we're going to have at least 2, possibly 3. So we could go something like, that's 4, that's going to be too many. As a little aside, I did recently discover these very cool things. So this is an animated fidget spinner. You might remember fidget spinners from back in 2017. Well, this one has these slinkies printed all around the outside, all in a slightly different position. And once you spin it, if you view it through a camera and you set the frame rate to the same frame rate as the spinner is going around, then you get this really cool animation effect happening. And you'll notice that the slinky is actually just going up or down the stairs, depending on which way you spin this. Really cool effect though. A little aside, just as a break from melting my brain here on this puzzle. Let's try and get this though. Okay, what can we do? If that was an L, it would fit in there perfectly, but it's not. If we're going with this straight, because this does seem more plausible, because we're ending up in a position that is very close to it compared to the angled one where we're still like 4 or 5 pieces away. And I just don't think that angled and straight is going to work together. But the most reasonable thing to start with would be to have as minimal gaps at the top here as possible. And I think the minimum I can get is 3. Unless I position that one like that. And now we've got 2. Okay, there we go. 2 gaps. But then we're going to have a problem straight away here. That's not good. Could I flip that over there? Does that help at all? I don't know. This is looking good. Right, from here. On to the last 2 pieces, and we're definitely not going to be able to fit the last one in. We might be able to get this one in somehow. Even then, I don't think we can. I quite like the top 2 layers here. I just am struggling with the bottom here because we've managed to fill about half the tray, just under half the tray. We've got 4 gaps, so that's looking good. We've got 9 to play with. 9 to play with? Pretty sure, yes. So this kind of looks good to start with. It's just these 2 gaps here are a little bit of an issue. Again, we've got the L shape at the end. Chop this off, stick it in there. So each piece is 3 deep, but we've only got 8 squares, to work with here. So we need them to be overlapping. Basically, we can get 3 in a row, and we need to get 11 in. So we need 4 rows of pieces. 4 rows of pieces with an average of 2.5 pieces in each row. So Obviously, we're going to have a lot of overlapping happening. So some pieces are going to have to sit. Basically, we need some pieces to be sitting like this. Okay. So we need to have this kind of situation, which is fine, but we need more than one piece to do that. We need two pieces to do that. And really, the only way for them to overlap that much, for them to overlap 2 out of the 3 squares, is to have them fitted together like this. So we have to have them fitted together like this in 2 instances. So we've got one instance here, and then we need to make a situation where we can do that again. So this one could come up to somewhere here. Let's try that. Higher. So fitting in here, we go one along like this. Oh, okay, that looks quite nice. Right, from here, what can we do? In here. And this. Maybe that one's not quite right. There. Oh, there we go. Is this enough space? This feels like it's got to be enough space. There we go. The coffee is finished. I think that was probably about an hour or so to solve this one. I'm not exactly sure. Pretty challenging. I was following 2 different paths there, possibly going with the angled solution, possibly going with the straight solution, but it turns out to be the straight one on this occasion, which is a nice change because it's nearly always the angles that you go for with these packing puzzles these days. Really cool little puzzle. Hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I'll see you next time for more puzzles.